than that depending on the company. But biodegradable pads can range from 3 rupees per pad up to 15 plus rupees per pad. So it depends on which company you go for, but these can be a good option. Now we want to state here that this is not the most sustainable option. This is still something that you will be using for on a one-time basis. It's a use and throw product, and it does require a fair bit of resources to be used. But in terms of garbage, it is creating lesser garbage, so it can be a stepping stone perhaps. So yeah, that is about biodegradable pads. um, yes, so I'll just address this one question. So the one that I showed you right now, this is from a company called Heyday. We have some other ones. The ones that have gotten popular recently is Carmesi, which is this one. So yeah, there are some brands which are fairly expensive right now, but the reason for that is also that they're not in demand so much. So when you have a lot more people to produce for, then you can cut down the costs essentially. So most of these companies are still starting out in that aspect. So I think if a lot more people started using them, the prices would drop. But these kind of high-end brands are still pretty expensive right now. If you buy them in bulk, they are cheaper. And there are other brands which are relatively more affordable. So after the session, we can share a link of all the products that we talk about, and it has a list of all Indian brands for all the sustainable products that we talk about, and it has the range. So you can decide based on the materials, the range, and everything, which one you might want to use. Yes, so that is one thing. Okay, so should I move on to the other one?
I think if there aren't any more questions about it, we can move on. There is a question. I think you can.
Yes. So can you highlight the difference between biodegradable sanitary pads made from different raw materials? Okay. Yeah, so that is true that banana fiber is a little more thicker than bamboo fiber. In terms of feel, I would say that they're not that different. There are some which also use organic cotton. So organic cotton means there were no pesticides used in producing that cotton. So that is a good option as well. So basically, the reason why it's a little difficult to address this question is because usually many companies have both these fibers present and they're used in different sections of the pad. So it's not like one pad is made from bamboo fiber completely or banana fiber completely, at least that we have come across. So I think maybe that is the reason. But in terms of how it feels, I think there isn't much difference. Like thickness doesn't mean that there would be more friction or it would lead to rashes or itchiness or anything like that. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. I think there was another one, but Anjali addressed it in the chat box. So yes. So should I move on to the other section? Perfect. So the second thing is, which I talked about very briefly, is cloth pads or just cloth. So women for thousands of years have been using cloth, and they have been doing so pretty hygienically. But recently, let's say 30, 40, 50 years ago, when the use of sanitary napkins became more and more popular over the years, many companies and even government bodies started telling people to move away from cloth because it's unhygienic and to use sanitary napkins. Now, there is what needs to be addressed here is that cloth in itself is not unhygienic, it's not unhealthy, it's not unclean. It is how you take care of it. Now, this is true for all menstrual products or all products that come into contact with bodily fluids. So, the reason why they said that uh, cloth can lead to certain types of infections is because many women, due to the taboo surrounding menstruation, they would feel uncomfortable drying their cloth pads outside. Now, this is a crucial step in using cloth because it needs to be dried in direct sunlight and in an airy space. What this does is it allows for sunlight to reach the pad and to kill any bacteria present in it. Now, you might have noticed this with your own clothes as well. If they don't dry properly during the rainy season, if it's damp, or if you dry them inside the house, you can feel that they're still damp. They can smell weird. They can have sort of like fungus growing on it. So this is exactly what happens with your pads as well. But the thing is, it has also had your bodily fluids in it. So your blood is a very good environment for bacteria to keep growing in. So this is the reason why cloth can be unhygienic, but if you use it properly, there is absolutely no problems with it. So I'll show you what these kind of modern cloth pads look like. So they look like a normal pad. They have wings like this, which have buttons and which can be clipped behind the underwear, and it sits like this. And you would have to change them uh, a little more often than you change your sanitary napkins, because it has no chemicals which increase the absorbency. So basically, that is what a pad looks like. There are some different designs. So there is one that basically looks like this. It has uh, wings in the back and it opens up completely, so it looks like a handkerchief. So for women who feel uncomfortable drying something that looks like a pad very obviously, this is another option. And basically that is how a cloth pad works. So the crucial part is the maintenance, like I said before. So the best way to use a cloth pad is, once you are done using it, you need to soak it in cold water for a minimum of 30 minutes to a maximum of, let's say, a few hours. What this does is this allows all the blood to seep out. And this is very true. I have been using cloth pads for over a year now, and it is a very easy process to clean them. So basically, once all the blood has seeped out of the cloth pads, you will be able to tell, because you won't see any stains or anything like that. And once that is done, you know that is you can wash them now. So you can wash them in two ways. One is that you can put them in the washing machine if you and whoever you live with feels comfortable with that, or you can hand wash them. But while hand washing them, you cannot use the brush, because if you scrub the material, it can cause microfibers to kind of tear away, and that might be a problem if you use it afterwards. So you have to create kind of soap water where you use mild detergent, and then you can scrub the material against itself, and basically that's how it gets clean. And then afterwards you have to dry it in direct sunlight or in a airy space, or you can tumble dry it if you have a dryer, but you may have to make sure that it's completely dried before you use it again. So that is basically how you use a cloth pad. uh, Again, these are not available in like medical stores, but you can get them online. And you need to make sure that the material they're using is organic cotton or flannel or hemp, which are organic fibers, and they at least that needs to be the top and the bottom layer of it, which will actually be in contact with your skin. And inside it can have other scrap fabrics which are clean, but just textile waste which is too small to use for anything else. So basically that is it. And I know sometimes we worry about staining and something like that. So there are some pads which have a PUL lining. So PUL is basically like a very um, thin layer of plastic which is at the very end of the pad. And what this does is it makes sure that no blood seeps through. Now, if you want to move to a sustainable option, PUL is again plastic, it won't degrade, but there is also Eco PUL, which is made from again cornstarch bioplastic. So you can use it for up to 70 washes, and after that, it essentially just becomes water soluble. So for the first 70 washes, you will have a lining, and then after that, either you can buy new ones or you can continue using them. So one pad you can use for 2 to 3 years, depending on how you maintain it, and they're absolutely they're very comfortable to use, and that is a great option if you want to move to sustainable products. So if there are any questions, um,
Guys, do we have any questions in the audience?
Mm, okay. Okay, so one thing is cost of pads. So a lot of times we think that sustainable options are much more expensive, which they can be in some cases, but it's usually an investment. So you're using them for a longer amount of time. So in the long run, it's actually much, much cheaper. So so each pad costs around from 100 rupees to 250 to 300, depending on the company. For most of the companies, you can get like a set of pads, and then they cost much lesser. So we will share that information with you as well. So if you consider that you'll be using one pad for, let's say, 2-3 years, um, you're still cutting down a lot of costs that you would spend on sanitary napkins. So we suggest either Ecofem or Soch. So Ecofem is and Soch, both are wonderful companies, and they have really good pads, and you can get the ones with lining or without the lining, and they have a couple of different designs as well. So you can choose in that as well.
Wow. Okay, I think I have a question. I mean, not really sort of a question, but there are, before today's session, before all this information, y'all are sharing, I always thought that there was just sort of, the only sanitary napkins that were available, the only option for women
Right.
who are menstruating is just those pads. And I feel there are so many options available in the market, sustainable ones, which are, uh, healthy for the environment as well as for the body. I feel, of course, depending on the woman's comfort, if she's comfortable, I feel it is great that they, start using it. Because from, of course, I am a guy, I wouldn't possibly know the pain or whatever you all go through. But, the least that, I can do is probably suggest my friends some sustainable, some better options, because it's a, if I can't, understand the pain, at least I can try to, sort of reduce it.
Yeah, that is a great approach, because it is true. It's not like products don't exist. It's just that we don't know about them, and it's not necessarily our fault they are not marketed in the same way that sanitary napkins are, because those are produced by huge companies. They have so much money, and this is an expensive ordeal. And with some sustainable products, the thing is, especially for the menstrual cup, that it's such an intimate product that a lot needs to be explained about it. And when you are doing advertisements, the censorship board doesn't allow for you to say certain words or
Right.
show certain diagrams. So it becomes really difficult. Like, how do you explain this to someone if you're not allowed to use that language? So it is something that is a difficult thing, but that's why we are trying to do this, so we can at least help some people or share whatever we have learned from using these products. So
Right.
yeah.
So hopefully with
I wanted
this
to
movement,
add.
sure, go ahead.
Sure. No, please.
So I was saying, hopefully with this movement, and of course, y'all are going to get a lot of support with what y'all are doing. Hopefully the censorship board won't have an issue, in the future. They would probably start allowing it.
Definitely, that would be amazing. And I think just before we move to cups, there is one thing that I do want to address, which is that someone texted me personally asking, how do we, bring out these sustainable products while also retaining comfort and economic value to those who can't afford products? And I think I would say, after using sustainable products the past 3-4 years, I'd any day pick them over for comfort over a sanitary napkin, because sanitary napkin get rashes, itchiness, smelling. You don't get any of this in a sustainable product, because all those are really a result of the chemicals that are in the product. They are not a result of your menstruation cycle or your blood. Your blood is absolutely odorless and clean. The other thing is, economic value wise, we spoke about the pads being nearly 7 to 10 rupees. A cloth pad, for example, costs around 100 rupees, and you just need 3, and those 3 cloth pads, 300 rupees, last you nearly 3 years. Now you compare that to the price of a sanitary napkin. Even if you take 10 rupees per month, that's 120 rupees in a year. So sorry, that's not 120 rupees in a year. If you take 10 rupees per pad, you multiply that by 15 first, and then because you use approximately 15 pads per month, multiply that into 12, right? And then that into 3. That is how much you are spending on sanitary napkins. It's way more expensive than a cloth pad in those 3 years. And I think when you compare it economically, it makes a lot more sense to move to sustainable options like cloth pads or menstrual cups, which we'll talk about and you'll realize are actually even more economically friendly than cloth pads. So I think yes, someone
I have
had a question. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it being economically friendly, you said in the long run, perhaps definitely yes. But if you look at the economic status of a normal Indian, the normal Indian's normal Indian salary per day, I'm saying the average Indian, still comes down to about 1,250 rupees a day. Sorry, a month, not even a day. So if you take 1,250 rupees of a regular Indian who has a family of, let's say, even 3, and let's just say in the most ideal scenario, only his wife is the only woman in the family who's menstruating. Even then, spending 300 bucks out of that in a single go would mean a lot more economic burden to him rather than spending just 5 or 7 or let's just say even 50 rupees for that for a month. So how do we combat this issue?
Definitely. So I think here is where you have companies like, if you've heard of Goonj, for example, they do a lot of work on the ground and provide, for example, up to 3 pads, a packet of 3 cloth pads for just 70 rupees. And you have many companies that go and do groundwork where they give subsidized pads, subsidized menstrual cups. You also, so of course, when we talk about 100 rupees for a pad, we are talking about, this is commercial selling of these pads. But I think when you really move into places like urban slums, villages, there's a lot of work being done in providing subsidized pads. And I think if you can hand these, for example, let's say 3 or 4 pads out for 70 rupees versus that menstruator in that slum or village spending, let's say 150 rupees that month for their period, I think it makes a lot more sense. So
I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think one more thing is also, we also thought about this same thing before we actually started. So we were initially doing a lot more work in kind of urban settings where we thought that since they are a little bit on the higher end, like you said, at one go. So we were talking only to these women because we thought that other people might not be interested in it because of the price. But once we started doing sessions in like she said, urban slums or villages or places which are in the lower economic strata, we realize that these people, they have a very good understanding of their money because of the economic condition that they are in, and many a times they do see that in the long run this makes sense. So I'm not saying that it's possible every single time, but whenever they can, they do try to shift to something else, because garbage especially is something that is much more problematic to them than it is to us, because our garbage is collected. Once it's out of our house, we don't even have to see it. There are places where garbage doesn't get collected, where they have garbage thrown around their houses. So I think in that sense they do understand it. I mean, it is wonderful that so many organizations are trying to reach out to this group which does need a lot more help in this section. So it's both of these things. So I think a balance of these two can help in the future. So yeah.
May I add to this? I think that's a very nice question out over there and very well answered by the two of you. I think it's more education towards letting people know, and really here I don't think the strata of people, or whether you belong to a particular standard or class, really matters, because everybody right now in India, across India I should say, I'm not sure globally, but is uneducated about this. So if I know that this is going to cost me this month, it's going to burn a hole in my pocket, but for the next 4 many months, it's not going to burn a hole into my pocket. In fact, it's not going to count at all if that's how we explain it to these people. Like she just very well said, they are much more smarter with their finances than most of us give them credit for. So a very, very well asked question and an amazingly very beautiful answer by the group. I hope that answers your question.
I hope that answers your question and it clarifies. And definitely thank you for adding that, Samira.
You're welcome.
Okay. If there aren't any more, we can always take up more questions afterwards. I think we'll quickly move to menstrual cups before we run out of time. And then if you have any more questions, you can stay back and ask us. How many of you have heard of a menstrual cup before or use a menstrual cup right now? You can put it in the chat.
So I've
this is
heard
what
of them. I've heard of them
Yes.
before. A friend of mine, she had put a post about it on Instagram, and that's how I first came across it. So that's how I. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is what it looks like. Okay, tried and failed at using it. We'll definitely address any questions you have then today. So you can see it looks like a cup, right? It has a stem over here. It's not a funnel. It collects your blood. So essentially, a menstrual cup is folded and inserted into your vagina, similar to a tampon in that sense. And once it's inside your vagina, it collects the blood. It doesn't absorb it, but it collects it. And that's what allows you to reuse the cup. So once the cup is full of blood, you have to remove it, dump the blood in the toilet, wash the cup, and reinsert it. So this cup can be worn for up to 12 hours if need be. That is, you can wear it comfortably while sleeping for an entire day when you're, let's say, not bleeding as heavily. And a cup lasts you nearly 5 to 7 years. Just think about that for a second. 5 to 7 years, that's a very long time, and it's just one product. So this menstrual cup is made from medical grade silicone. That's very important to remember. You have a lot of cups in the market which are made of rubber, plastic, TPE, which is a thermoplastic, latex, but the cup should be made of medical grade silicone, not food grade silicone, not just silicone. It should be medical grade. And this is really important because medical grade silicone is used in a lot of medical procedures, and it is unreactive. So it's not going to leach anything out into your body, and it's not going to absorb anything from your body into the cup. It makes it very unreactive, and that's why it's safe. It doesn't change the pH of your vagina like we explored when we were talking about tampons. So that is really important. There's a lot of cups which list the fact that they're made of medical grade silicone on Amazon, but that's not always true. So we really urge you, we will talk about brands at the end, but we would urge you that when you buy a menstrual cup, do reach out to us or anyone else who knows about them so that you buy the right one. Okay, so let's move to how you use a cup. I know this looks a little bit big and it can be a little intimidating the first time. I know I was a little bit intimidated by it. So there are a few folds that you can do which makes inserting this cup easier. Okay, I'm going to show you these folds and just let me know if you can't see them properly. So the first fold is called a C fold. You basically push down the cup like this. Okay, you push it down like this and you fold it. So it looks like a C, right? Is that the right way for you? Yes, there we go. It looks like a C. And you can see that it's even throughout. So this makes it a lot easier to insert the cup. It's a lot smaller than it was before. So it's easier that way as well. And the other fold you can try is called a shell fold, where you touch the base, or sorry, the rim of this cup into the base of the cup. Okay, so you have to take this rim to the base. You put your finger here and you pull it inside. So you pull your finger towards you, okay, like this. And then you take your finger out and you pinch the cup at the same time. Okay, so this is what you'll get. Sorry. This is what you'll get. You can see that it has a very narrow opening and it slowly gets wider, right? So this is easier if you're inserting it for the first time because it eases the cup in. The only thing is this part is a little wider than your cup. So that part can be a bit of an issue. Which fold you use really depends on you as a person, and you will have to try different folds to see which one works the best for you. when you're inserting this cup, you have to be absolutely relaxed. Now, this is really important because when we're stressed, you crunch up your muscles and it gets just a lot harder to insert the cup. The best way to do it is either squatting or standing with one foot on the toilet. And that is because when you're sitting down, your pelvic bone will come lower and you'll have to maneuver the cup. If you're squatting or standing with one foot on the toilet, it's a lot easier for you to insert the cup. So that is basically how you insert the cup. Now, I know that even after a fold, it might seem a little bit intimidating. I know it's not exactly very small, but just remember that an entire baby can come out of your vagina. And that is a lot bigger than this cup. It's nearly this big. So you can definitely put a cup inside. The first time you might have a mental block, and that's completely normal. It's completely okay. Just give your body that time. You don't have to push your body into trying a cup. Give it some time. If you're feeling scared, you can wait, play some music, go for a walk, come back and try again. And you can always call us or anyone else you know who's used a cup for help if you're feeling scared. But once you move past that initial mental block, it's very easy to insert. It may hurt the first time a little bit, to be very honest. And this really depends on person to person. It didn't hurt me, but I think it did hurt Sayuri a little bit the first time. No? Okay. It does hurt some people, but it's just a one-time pain and it's not going to happen every time. So you kind of just have to muster up that courage once and go for it. So that is how it's inserted. Once the cup is inserted, now remember we spoke about the cervix earlier. The cervix feels like the tip of your nose, okay? So imagine this is the cervix. It's the opening of the uterus. So it's where the blood is going to come out from. The opening of the cervix itself is very small, right? So your cervix, the cup fits around your cervix like this, right? So all the blood goes into the cervix, into the cup. And the cup cannot go into your uterus. So it's not going to get lost anywhere. Don't worry. You will be able to locate the cup again. So when you insert the cup, after you folded it, right? You insert the cup about halfway, right? You insert the cup about halfway and open it. Let it be. You can hear the pop, I think. So once the cup opens up like this, you then push it in the rest of the way. And remember, the entire cup needs to go inside, including the stem. Nothing of the cup should be sticking out. The reason you insert it halfway and then open it up is because if you fold it and insert it all the way, the cup is not going to open before it reaches your cervix and then it might get stuck. So it's very important to open it halfway and then insert it, right? If you feel like the cup is still not inserted, let's say you feel a dent somewhere, what you can do is you can either, you put your finger inside like this and you either push up on the cup from the other side and it will open up. Alternatively, you pull up on your vaginal walls and that will create a suction and cause the cup to open. Okay, I know it's a little bit confusing the first time, but you honestly, you know your body a lot better than you think you do. And if you do it a few times, you will get comfortable with it. You can also take out the cup and reinsert it if you feel like it's not working, right? So once the cup is inside, it works on a function of suction. It has 4 suction holes. You can see the suction holes here. Just like when we're younger, you know, we put a glass in our mouths and we suck in the air and then it stays there. Similarly, here the cup stays in with suction and it's not going to slide out. Don't worry about that. It will collect the blood, but it will not slide out. You can do anything when you're wearing the cup. You can swim, you can do a handstand. The blood is not going to flow back into your uterus. Don't worry about that. It's a one-way valve. You can sleep very comfortably. If you're doing a lot of exercise, you can do that. If you're not doing a lot of exercise, that's also fine. You can sit very comfortably with the cup. Essentially, you should not feel the cup once it's inside you. And if you're feeling the cup, if it hurts, then you've probably not inserted it correctly. So the cup is extremely comfortable. Now, when you're removing the cup, now there's a suction, right, that's been created. To remove it, you don't pull the stem. Pulling the stem is going to strengthen the suction. What you need to do is insert a finger, push down like this to break the suction, and then pull it out. Okay, it's very simple once you actually do it. There's also ridges on the cup, so that will help you grip the cup. You just push it down, it'll break the suction, you pull it out, and you dump the blood in the toilet. The first time you can try this while you're showering in case blood spills. But in general, you'll get very used to it, and then the blood won't spill anymore, so you can do it over a toilet. And you just dump the blood and you rinse it with the spray that's there near the toilet. If you're in a public washroom, you use your own water bottle and you just clean it and then you reinsert it. Right? So that is how you use a menstrual cup. Before and after every cycle, this is very important. You need to sterilize the cup. So someone has asked me, how safe is it to use? It's extremely safe to use because firstly, like I said, it's medical grade silicone, but the other responsibility does fall on you as a consumer. You have to keep the cup clean. So you have to sterilize it. Before and after your cycle, put it in boiling water for about 5 to 10 minutes. And if you want, you can put some baking soda in it as well. Don't put any soap because soap changes the pH of your vagina. So you can just put either baking powder baking soda if you really need it. Otherwise, just put it in plain water. And you store it in the cloth bag that it comes in and put it in a cool and dry place until next cycle. So that is how you use the cup. A cup can cost you between 300 to 2,000 rupees, depending on the company you go for. And personally, we recommend a brand called Rusticart. This is what their cup looks like. It has a very small stem, you can see, and it's a short cup. This is because it's made for Indian menstruators, and it's kept in mind that Indian menstruators have a lower cervix. So they've made this cup. It's a clear cup, which is important because colored cups tend to have an additional chemical in it, and it's best to use a clear cup if you can. You don't want to put any more chemicals in your body than necessary. The Rustic cup also has 4 suction holes, so it creates a good suction. I've been using this for the past 4 years, I think, and I've never had an issue. No coloring issue, no smell issue. If you do face a coloring or smell issue, you can just put it in the sun for a little bit and it should be fine. So if you're having issues with the stem also, you can cut this off, but preferably after 2 cycles. So this is pretty much how you use the cup. This cup costs you around 950 rupees. This is called Rustic Art. Saidi, could you put it in the chat? I think that'll help. So if you would like to buy a cup, either this or any other, you can always reach out to us and ask us for help to choose it. And we are also delivering Rustic Art cups right now if you'd like. Another question that we usually get, just to address that, is when do you know if a cup is full? Because a sanitary napkin, you can see that the pad is full. With a cup, it's more of an intuition. So it feels like maybe the first time you'll be a little bit confused, but I think after 2 cycles, you start to really understand your own body and your cycle. So it's kind of like, you'll know the first day, okay, I have to change it every maybe 6 hours because it's my first day, or it's my 4th day, so I can leave it in for 12 hours, maybe 14 hours. And that's something you'll develop over time. The first 2 cycles, you can use a sanitary napkin just to make sure that it doesn't leak. But after that, it really shouldn't leak if you change the cup on time. And this is very comfortable to change even if you're not at home. It's something you'll get used to. So the quarantine is the best time to try out the menstrual cup since you're at home. And once you're comfortable with that, you can use it anywhere. I know we tried it in some very crazy situations. We tried changing it on the train, while camping. And it's organic blood, which is full of iron. So you can really dispose of that blood anywhere. You can even just make a hole in the ground and put the blood there if let's say you don't have access to a toilet. And the best thing is you don't have to carry around any garbage. So that is how you use the cup. Some other Indian brands available are Sirona, Boond, and they are also pretty decent cups. Stone Soup as well. They're all pretty decent cups. They are colored cups, so we'd urge you to go for a clear cup if possible, but they are also good cups. And if you put your email address in the chat, we can definitely send you all of these cup brands and links after the session is over. So do you have any questions for us about menstrual cups or anything else we've said in this entire session?
I have a question, yes. Not related to menstrual hygiene or the products, but when you sent me the intro on Instagram, you told me that you all started this when you all were in high school. And I imagine you all would be around the age of maybe 13, 14, 15 or whatever. So at that age, what was the idea behind starting it, and did you all face any sort of issues from your family or society? Because first of all, talking about it in the society is taboo, and then secondly, a young girl of the age of 13, 14, 15 starting off a project for alternative methods is something that nobody would imagine. So how did you all face the stigma, and how did you all go ahead and be where you all are today?
Sorry, should I answer that or do you want to?
I can, sure. I was just looking at the time and wondering about that. We only have a minute and a half left. So should we do the same thing again if it closes?
Yeah.
Yeah, just click the same
Okay.
link, it'll happen.
Okay, perfect. So I think, yeah, we weren't 13, 14. I think most of us were 16 or 17. So basically we had to do a social impact project for our high school, and all 5 of us went to the same high school. So that's how we started it. And we all wanted to do something for women and for women's health. So that is why we started this project. And at least with families we had no issues. They were very supportive, and I mean, it was wonderful because we all got to talk to our brothers and fathers, and some of us have talked to our grandparents, and it's wonderful explaining this to them. And yeah, sometimes it's a difficult conversation to have. It's a little awkward, it can be uncomfortable, but it's not impossible. That's what we've noticed. We have uh, gotten the opportunity to go to very insane places, and we have had wonderful responses everywhere throughout. So it's been a really wonderful experience doing this, and we till date haven't faced any, I would say, problems or negative remarks from anyone. So yeah.
And just I want to quickly add in before the